Hello there, kia ora. I've got some bad news, everyone. I'm suffering from audio drift and I need to get it sorted. Don't worry, it's actually a production term. It's not anything contagious, I hope. It's what happens when your audio and your picture start off in sync and then slowly get out of sync. So you end up looking like you're doing a dub on an Asian action film. But I don't know what's causing the problem. And I've noticed it a little bit cropping up over the last week and done nothing about it. And it's getting to a point now where it's starting to really frustrate me because I don't know what's causing it or how to fix it. It's kind of like when you've got that friend who I'm not mentioning by name who has a bald patch that's growing and it's really obvious that it's growing, but you don't want to say anything to point it out because that seems kind of rude. And surely they know they've got a bald patch, right? But you want to support them, and that's how things are going in my head, and that's not based on a true story whatsoever. Anyway, it does mean that this week there's going to be no This Week's The News, because the amount of effort that goes into producing that takes up quite a bit of time, and if I don't have a system that's doing what it does properly, it makes it really difficult to get that product out properly looking the way that I want it to look. So, no This Week's The News. Which is kind of depressing because there's a whole bunch of stuff I really want to talk about. Like just how many people have suddenly donated a ton of money to the ACT Party. They've had a huge swell of people giving them donations in the last month. And what on earth is driving millionaires and billionaires to donate money to a party that went out of its way to hide a pedophile as its president, that they still think it's a good idea to give them money to continue doing what they're doing? Or the fact that Nicola's claims of getting a surplus in the next round of budget comes down to worrying about how volatile oil is going to be, but also that it's under the new measurement that they made up, the Obergell X, that takes out a whole bunch of debt. If you put that back in, they are not meeting surplus requirements next time, but that's not why we have the new measuring system. It's so that they can make themselves look better. Or even the fact that it doesn't count capital loans for capital expenditure, which, if you do include that, drives the debt level up and the amount of borrowing up further than what Grant Robertson did when he was borrowing for COVID, which the right tell us is bad. That amount of money was bad, but in this case probably not going to be saying much about that at all, are they? Or the fact that the legendary Linda Top, who this week suffered the most tragic of things, got on stage at the Aotearoa Music Awards and ripped into the government over its lack of support for the creative sector, but its overwhelming support for the military in front of Paul Goldsmith, who sometimes I think needs to hear these things, but because the word Aotearoa was in the title probably isn't going to pay that much attention because he doesn't know what that word means. Or to take a look at these comments that showed up on a recent Stuff article around the budget that show that even people who are earning $140,000 a year are still struggling because that cost of living crisis laser focus that we were promised has ended up being spread on things like bathroom definition bills. Or how Zoran Mamdani cited Auckland's planning for infrastructure as a model he'd like to emulate for New York to build the much promised affordable housing that he's been offering over there. And he's doing pretty good in the job so far of delivering on his promises. Maybe somebody here should pay attention to how that's working? Or claims that the government's trying to focus on dealing with the oil and petrol crisis by building more roads in the budget. I mean, unlike these guys, they do need roads, but there's no alternative transport money there in the budget either. It's all about making sure people can drive, while telling you that they're dealing with the issue around fuel that's not in their control. I also really wanted to talk about the rates increases that are popping up around the country. Councils are now going back to the table and increasing rates and setting everything for next year, and those increases are still higher than we're seeing for CPI, which is what the rates cap is that the government is going to be forcing on councils. And there's reasons for that, as I tried to explain many times last year. The rate of infrastructure inflation is significantly higher than it is for your household items. So those costs keep going up. On top of that, they've got other infrastructure that's aging and falling to pieces all over the country that we need to get upgraded, including water infrastructure that would have been sorted under Three Waters. But hey, how many of you decided not to vote for that because co-governance bad? Anyway, I did try and warn you on this. The fact that all of these rate sets are still going to be higher than CPI, higher than the rates cap, shows you that when that rate cap comes in, you're going to be screwing over your communities as they defer maintenance and infrastructure costs, which are going to put people's lives at risk. But hey, rates won't go up too high. I also wanted to talk about the Prime Minister's chief policy advisor getting documents from lobbyists that somehow ended up being an actual policy, and how that whole thing is unfolding. But mostly, I want to make sure that despite all the budget hubbub and noise and how it magically seems to wash away scandal and drama, and news stories like this one about the record levels of homelessness the country is facing right now because of policies from the coalition, that you remembered to check your enrolment details are up to date. Because if they're not up to date by October 25, you don't get to vote this year. And you should vote this year. 1 million Kiwis didn't vote in 2023, and look what happened. We ended up with a bunch of people in charge that seem to think that eating $15 gourmet paua pies is relatable, while butter gets up to $10 a block for the rest of us. So you can check those details by heading to vote.nz. Just takes 2 minutes to check everything is all up to date, and if you've got any issues, they have a phone number there that you can call. I'll happily help you out. Now, you get onto that. Well, I get ready to try some percussive maintenance on the computer here to see if I can make it work. Oh, hey there, podcast listeners. Thanks for checking out today's podcast, whether that's on video or audio. I really appreciate it. And I did finally get around to doing a podcast end tag, which I've been meaning to do for a while instead of just taking you onto the Facebook version. So while you're here, why not hit that subscribe button so that you can get updates coming in directly every time there's a new episode uploaded. Just seems like a really simple way to keep up to date with all of the crazy that's going on. So, yeah, give that a shot, and I'll talk to you soon.